Real quick before we get too far, I want to talk about this ACC thing because Nicole Auerbach at The Athletic, somebody who, again, I think works really hard to do a good job, she is reporting that SMU is an expansion target of the ACC. And I guess here's what I'm asking about the ACC. And if you're an ACC country, I'd love to get your opinion on this. Does SMU solve any of your problems? That I guess, is my biggest question.
Mm-hmm.
What does SMU do for the ACC? It's the same conversation we had about the Pac-12 and SMU.
Yeah.
Does SMU in any way deliver Dallas, Texas? Well, I think we all know the answer to that.
Yeah, we've outlined why they don't.
They don't give you Dallas. Do they give you a presence in Texas? They do. But you're not Lubbock. You're not Austin. You're not Dallas. You're not Houston. You're not San Antonio. Frankly, you're not Rice. I think you're just this... You're this brand that's on the outskirts of Dallas.
Yeah.
So the question I have is, what does the ACC need with SMU? And I would love to have a real conversation about this because I'm one of the people who believe that the ACC cannot rightfully afford to add Stanford and Cal. I think it's a huge mistake. If you add them, you are only asking for trouble. And if the numbers are true and the ACC distributed $44 million and, hey, that's all well and good. That's great. But how much of that money stays in their pockets and how much extra reach does Stanford and Cal really afford Georgia Tech? Really afford Miami? Really afford Florida State? Because it goes back to this Florida State conundrum where Florida State doesn't want to be in the league anymore. So let's say somehow, some way, ESPN agrees to pay for Stanford and Cal. How much are you at Florida State willing to give Stanford and Cal? Are you willing to give them a full share? You're not. You're not. If there's new money coming into the conference, some of that new money needs to go into the Florida State coffers. I think we all know that's what they're going to say. So what is Stanford and Cal going to get? Are they going to get $30 million? And Clemson and Florida State split the $28 million combined that is being left on the table by Stanford and Cal. That doesn't make a lot of sense because now you're putting the conference under tremendous pressure and tremendous stress by having two universities that are having to fight their way through athletic budgets.
Right.
So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, again, the Stanford endowment is significant. It's over $1 billion for sports. But I'm looking at an athletic department at Cal Berkeley that's in a massive hundreds of millions of dollars worth of debt on its football stadium renovation. I'm looking at a situation where they're not generating revenue through ticket sales, merchandising, beer sales, food sales. Like, that's not going on at Berkeley. They don't draw enough to do that because their teams are not good. So I guess my question is, what value does SMU bring to the ACC and why all of a sudden, and what are we missing about SMU that all of a sudden makes them the flavor of the day in expansion?
Yeah, I mean, I think conferences a lot of times just go through a process where they vet every single option. How much value is there in adding SMU is just one of those schools that chills out at the bottom of our conference and is an auto win for our member institutions who are trying to get to the college football playoff, there's a variety of reasons why you might consider, a smaller school in Texas, right? It's really a philosophical conversation, but I think, ultimately nothing's changed in SMU's situation that we're aware of, right? They're still SMU. They still don't provide you Dallas. And yeah, are they a nice little brand? Yes. So maybe it's a scheduling thing. Maybe it's a flexibility thing. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But what I can tell you is that doesn't change, Florida State's position, right? That doesn't change, the current state of affairs in the ACC. So for me, My stance has always been if Stanford and Cal were 2 hours away instead of 4 or 5 hours away, SMU wouldn't even be in the conversation. I think that's what's tough for Stanford and Cal right now is that there are other options for the ACC. However, those options are not P5. Those options are much lower down the totem pole. So it's like, okay, for the ACC, do we want to add 2 P5 schools, maybe 4 P5 schools out of the pack and work with travel? Or do we want to skip that opportunity, add someone who's lower in the ecosystem, but also not having any chance to make us real money almost ever? But it gives us scheduling flexibility. I mean, that's what you're talking about when we talk about, hey, they're vetted and they're evaluating the opportunity. That doesn't mean that SMU is some favorite to land in the ACC. It just means that there's someone that they're evaluating.
Yeah, I think the ACC, and I would hope the Mountain West. I think they're both being very aggressive here. And I think if you are the Mountain West, you have to find a way as soon as possible to expand if you're the Mountain West. Mm-hmm. You have to get Washington State and Oregon State to join the Mountain West as soon as you can possibly get that. Because I don't think you're not getting, in my opinion, Stanford and Cal. In the Mountain West, I don't see that as an option for them. I think Oregon State, Washington State, those are 2 very critical adds for the Mountain West. And I just think it's really important that this happen sooner than later, because the ACC is very, very active right now. We've heard this for weeks. We've talked about it. Florida State wants out. Clemson wants out. I think one of the main reasons the Big Ten, and we've talked about this at length on the show, one of the main reasons the Big Ten did not go to 20 is because I think they're waiting for the ACC to bend. And I have to believe if the ACC falls apart, and you can get Notre Dame to bring all of their sports to the Big Ten. And I happen to know from sources that North Carolina is somebody that the Big Ten really likes. If they can add Notre Dame and North Carolina, I think that's who 19 and 20 are. And I think that's exactly why you did not get, Stanford and Cal joining the Big Ten right now. Because the Big Ten knows that they have to be flexible and they have to keep those spots open for future expansion.
Yes.
Because I think this is just the beginning.
Of course.
I don't think this is the end of expansion and realignment. I think this is just the beginning. I think you're looking at a situation. Greg Sankey told Paul Feinbaum today that the College Football Playoff Committee has to reassess 12 teams in the playoff, and you have to have an at-large bid. This is all these changes. All these changes are chain reactions. You have the Big 12 dominating an expansion. Do you really think that's not going to start a tidal wave?
Yeah.
Because it is. It is going to start a tidal wave. And that tidal wave has already drowned out the Pac-12. That already happened. The Mountain West has to act right now. I think the ACC, if they want to somehow keep Florida State, and I don't know that that's a thing. I don't know that that's possible. But if the ACC wants to keep Florida State and probably by extension Clemson, they better do something significant. But is Stanford and Cal significant? Is that what's going to keep the ACC together, man? I don't think we can sit here and say that.
Well, and I think when you look at, what Greg Sankey also said, talking about how there's not an expansion target out there for the SEC right now. And I think that's really brilliant. Again, notice all the people coming out and talking about expansion, right? These are all people who have nothing to hide. These are all people who just are talking about the situation as they see it, whether it's Florida State, whether it's Greg Sankey, whether it's Brett Yormark or Tony Petitti, right? Whether it's Robbins or the fellas up at Utah, like all these people talking about their situation. Nothing to hide. Hey, this is how we saw it, right? This statement out of Kirk Schultz, right? Up at Washington State talking about, hey, this is how we saw the deal and X, Y, and like nothing to hide. And so that's why I say in expansion, conferences are always going to publicly vet every opportunity. I don't believe for a second that SMU is a serious candidate to join the ACC. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not
It's only $10 million to get out of their AAC agreement.
The only reason you would add them is that right there. It's a budget buy that can help you with scheduling if you were to be unbalanced. To which I say that was more of a Brett Yormark problem than really an ACC problem. If you think about it, Brett Yormark in the Big 12 in this whole expansion conversation with Gonzaga and several other candidates was facing an unbalanced situation, which is where you'd bring in a budget buy to balance out scheduling.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you fix this. I truly don't know how you fix the state of college football, because we are becoming, and I want to talk about this tweet from Nicole Auerbach, who talked about the need, and Dennis Dodd, and I know Dennis Dodd lies and fabricates everything, JD Wicker, but Dennis Dodd has a really interesting quote from Greg Sankey, just reiterated his frustration with no one on the NCAA Council speaking up on issues at a recent meeting he attended, unstated but assumed in that frustration only 7 of the council's 39 members are from P5 schools. Mm-hmm. The big boys want to rule the big boys.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear from G5s. They don't want to hear from lower level institutions like SMU. They don't want to hear from AAC. They don't want to hear from the American. They don't want to hear from the Mountain West. So I think we are in a very precarious time. And I don't know. I do not know how long all this can go on.
Yeah.
But it has been a very interesting show, and watching all this madness is only better when you have marinara meatballs.
At Papa Murphy's, we do more than just pizza. We do meatballs and marinara.
Actually, I do the meatballs and marinara.
And how do you do it, Dad?
How do I do it? How do I do it?
Order now at papamurphys.com.
Papa Murphy's Pizza, the official pizza of the Monty Show. Make sure you use the promo code Monty25 to save 25% off your purchase of $25 or more at Papa Murphy's Pizza. Welcome to the Monty Show number 1000. This hour of the show presented by our friends at TryDayTrading.com, who are giving you a pair of tickets to see Texas at Baylor on September 23rd. You guys asked for this game. We have told you repeatedly, hey, what game do you want us to give tickets away to? Last week it was BYU's opening game against Cincinnati, their first ever home Big 12 conference game. We gave those tickets away. This week on Friday at let's see, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern, we will announce the winner of the Texas at Baylor tickets for you, presented by TryDayTrading.com. To have a chance to win those tickets, all you have to do is go to TryDayTrading.com and sign up for their 30-day $10 trial membership. Now, the $10 is a charitable donation, so that's a tax write-off for you, right? So that's a $10 tax write-off. And what you get is TryDay Trading's teaching program on how to become an elite day trader. You get the whole thing in that 30 days. And at the end of that 30 days, hey, you know what? If you're not interested in it or you don't want to take part, great, walk away from it. It costs you nothing to walk away. Mm-hmm. It costs you nothing to walk away. But if I said to you, hey, I'll give you good seats to see Texas and Baylor for $10, would you take them? Of course you would. TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Sign up for the trial membership. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Then just take a picture, grab a screenshot of it, and hit us on Twitter or Instagram, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show, on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also tag Jake, SLC Jake. We want to send you out to see Texas and Baylor. All you have to do is get to TryDayTrading.com. A lot of breaking news in college football at this hour. Dennis Dodd is live tweeting Greg Sankey, making a good case for being a head of the NCAA or B, president of college football, which is something I think is coming. I think that there will be, whether it's the NCAA or whatever the management body in college football winds up being, I think you're going to see somebody of Greg Sankey's ilk, one of the P5 power players, is going to become the president of all college football. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the guys who I think has a great chance at that gig, Brett Yormark, because he's been such an operator.
Yeah.
But I think there is going to be a president of college football And Greg Sankey is pulling no punches. He wants P5 decisions made by P5 administrators. And I got to tell you, I think he's absolutely right. I think this Dennis Dodd tweet is a very interesting one on where Greg Sankey's mind's at. And I think this actually, though, real quick, and the point I want to make is, I think this is a really dangerous time for every G5 league.
Yes, it is.
Because I think, almost without question, if you are San Diego State, I understand why you're trying to get to a P5. Because as a G5, you have no control over your destiny. Look at Dennis Dodd's tweet here. Greg Sankey just reiterated his frustration with no one on the NCAA Council speaking up on issues at a recent meeting he attended. So no one on the council spoke up on some pretty big issues. Unstated but assumed in that frustration, 7 of the council's 39 members are from P5 schools.
Yeah, and I just think that we're heading, the direction that college football is heading is haves and have-nots, and it's been that way, for quite some time now.
Yes.
The haves should have the control. You've earned that position, and the have-nots, you guys, can complain and say it's unfair, but the reality of the situation is it is what it is. It's easier in basketball to become a have than a have-not. I will say that, but in football, it's really difficult. And I think if you're a have in football, you deserve that opportunity to run the business ops, 100%.
And boy, this you want to know why Paul Feinbaum matters? Because this is all on Feinbaum's show that this is going on. Pat 40 is also it's amazing that Greg Sankey is talking about how much damage the media did to the Pac-12. Do you guys buy into this theory? There is a theory out there that the Pac-12 was damaged by all the negative and positive media stuff that was all fabricated. So you look at this Pat 40, a really respected college football and really college sports writer. The speculation in some of the pronouncements we've seen is problematic, Sankey said. Last week, it just wasn't one of the great feelings to work in college sports. Greg Sankey on the Feinbaum show talking about the death of the Pac-12.
Right.
And you know what? I think we talked about that pretty openly on the show. This was not a good period of time for the Pac-12. But it also was a terrible period of time for college sports watching a conference eat itself.
Yeah.
And, you look at this right here, Greg Sankey on Feinbaum, we're very clear that there's not something out there that we should be reaching for in the SEC, meaning there's no school, there's no new member of the SEC that they want to add that they feel like is on par.
Hey, FSU, go F yourself.
That's
what he's saying.
It's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah.
And I not to keep going back to this situation with San Diego State, but if you're Florida State, what have you been doing? You've been trashing all of your fellow conference members up and down about how bad they are at what they do, and we're the ones that make the money, and we deserve more money. And what has San Diego State been doing? The pro rata we deserve. We're going somewhere. It won't be the Mountain West, but we're going somewhere. Just trashing all their members, disrespecting their conference. Other conferences and other commissioners and other conference members, they take note of that.
Yep.
And I know that we have a big Florida State contingent on this show. I'd love to hear from Florida State fans. You cannot tell me that Florida State has not burned its bridge in a lot of different stretches of this country. Florida State has all but said we want SEC membership. We want to be in the SEC. And I understand there's a large group of people in this country who think, oh, Florida State belongs in the Big Ten. I got news for you. Florida State belongs in the SEC if they're going to move conferences. But I don't think the SEC wants that headache.
Yeah.
And this is the question I continue to ask about Cal and Stanford. If you're Cal and Stanford, you just got forcefully pushed out of one of the most insecure situations we've ever seen in sports. Professional, amateur, college, whatever.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 was one of the most destabilized situations in the history of sports. Now you want to go from that to the ACC? You want to leave that frying pan for the ACC fire. I think you're crazy. To get into bed with somebody like Florida State, who's no different than what USC and UCLA were for this conference.
Mm-hmm.
No different. They like themselves. They want more money. They want more credit.
Yep.
And I wouldn't do it. I just would not. I would not do it.
Yeah, and I think that, again, as Greg Sankey's made perfectly clear here with his comments, once again, J.D. Wicker on the record. The SEC doesn't have to do anything.
Nothing.
The SEC, as Jay Monahan said, is in a control position, right? They are looking.
That's right.
They are looking down on you from the mountaintops in college football and saying, "Hey, yeah, great, cool. You guys can all realign, but as Greg said, we don't need our teams to be in 4 conferences to be nationally relevant. We have the biggest brands in college football. We got the national championship game on lock for like the last 10 years, right? Like, I mean, they do. So call it arrogant, call it whatever you want. But that's the reality of the situation, to which I said this last week. Hey, winning matters in college football. If you're going to be the conference that's got Georgia and Alabama in it, you're never going to struggle for money. But if you're going to be the conference that never wins anything in the college football playoff, you're going to struggle for money.
That's a different conversation. OG Gary gives us the 5-month membership note, by the way.
Let's go, baby.
He's been a member for 5 months. Give me a break, quote unquote. Mountain West, we need that drop, Jake. Yeah. Seriously.
Probably.
Seriously. Aztec Glenn gives us $10. My once proud school continues to embarrass itself after building up so much goodwill during the NCAA tournament. Seriously. You guys are throwing so much shade, but you're right. Yeah, as I said before. Sorry. Brandon James gives us $5. Love your show. Congrats on 1,000. Give them hell. Brigham. Give them hell. BYU. Did you guys see BYU is having physical fights at camp? Fall camp getting scrappy, yo.
Yep.
Renee Roca joins our membership. What's up, Renee? Let's go. Renee, good to see you. Boss Frog gives us $10. Hey, Team Money Monty, great show. Could it be plausible that adding SMU or Stanford or Cal to the ACC gives them the opportunity to restructure their grant of rights and media contract? Like to get your thoughts. It will. You have to alter your grant of rights to add teams because you have to get their grant of rights onto your grant of rights. But that process, from what I've been told, does not open up for Florida State to bail.
Yeah.
It does not. So, yes, it opens up their grant of rights. No, it does not mean that all of a sudden they're going to bail.
Yeah, hey, we're adding membership, Fox. We need to get value for these schools. What do you think?
Yeah. I am amazed. This Feinbaum interview with Greg Sankey it's over now, but it's been epic. Like he talked about everything from COVID in 2020. He said he reached out to the Stanford AD, Bernard Muir, and Pat Choon, former Pac-12 Commissioner Tom Hansen, after the day whose name shall not be uttered. He didn't have to, but he did. That's leadership. And I think Greg Sankey's been a really good leader. I do.
Yeah.
I do. He's not popular. He's not popular by any stretch, but I think it's pretty hard to argue that Greg Sankey hasn't been a good leader because I think he has been. And Donuts, official Monty Show Canyons Golf Fund. Congrats on the show. And Donuts, thank you.
Thank you.
Canyons Golf, our official golf club up in Park City. I'll be golfing alone all weekend long. If you guys would like to come up to Canyons and golf with me, I need a second. No, not going to read your comment. If you guys are going to have inflammatory names, I'm not going to read your comment. I missed the start, guys. Did San Diego State try to initiate a full pullout from the Mountain West?
Yeah.
See what he did there?
A full pullout.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, let's recap the news. I think that's a great reminder. Thank you. CBS Sports, Dennis Dodd reporting San Diego State tried to form a breakaway Power 5 conference. And according to Dennis, it was Adela de la Torre who tried to get the biggest names in the Mountain West, the American, and the 4 remaining Pac-12 members to form a new P5 conference. Now, from what we've heard and read now to this point, Adela Del Torre doesn't sound like made any ground on that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And J.D. Wicker says that's because it's a completely fake story.
Congratulations, but that's bullshit.
J.D. Wicker tweeted a link to the story, said it's fake news, and he's disappointed in the number of absolute fake articles that get written these days. Hashtag integrity journalism. We asked J.D. Wicker to come on today. He flatly refused. We sent a note to San Diego State asking for clarification on J.D. Wicker's comments. They have not replied to this email. This is a screen grab of the email. They've not replied to it. So I can't tell you what is fake about it. I can't tell you if the story is completely fabricated or not, because J.D. Wicker isn't taking emails or phone calls to ask him those questions.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that somebody the ilk of Dennis Dodd would completely fabricate stories. I don't see that as, I don't even see that that's possible.
Yeah, and I think the behavior out of J.D. Wicker suggests that the story has some legs to it. I mean, if you're going to come out and say fake news and, say that it's a bunch of crap, but you don't want to talk about it in an interview, you don't want to take questions about it, what does that say? That says that you want to hate on it, but it's got legs.
I don't know. And I again, I'll just go back and point to the University of Utah. What we saw to Mark Harlan and Taylor Randall yesterday, pure class.
Yeah.
The way they speak, the way they operate, pure class. You look at Adela Del Torre and you look at J.D. Wicker, questions abound. Questions abound.
Yeah.
Questions
not a good look.
Abound. Pretty amazing. Let's see. Tom Dean gives us $2 to say, Monty, how many years before top schools leave the ACC? We'll see. I don't know the answer to that. That's a really good question. I think when you look at the expansion that we're talking about here, and if they truly are after, SMU, Stanford, and Cal, if that's where they wind up going, that's a really interesting grouping of schools. Does that keep Florida State interested? Does that keep Clemson interested? I don't know. Clemson's not the one saying that they got to get out. That's Florida State.
In God's name, image, and likeness.
I think that's really interesting.
Yep.
Gyrotax says, what's the buyout for Big 12 teams? Is that an option for the ACC? It's not. Their grant of rights are almost identical because the ACC used Bob Bowlesby's grant of rights as a template.
Yeah.
The former commissioner of the Big 12. So it is significant. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll try to find out. Welcome our newest member, Doom. Doom is a member.
Yeah, Doom. Everything sucks and the world's ending.
Thank you, Doom. The iPlaylist. Also, Monty's, is UConn to the Big 12 still possible? Want to see Paige Buchers live if she sticks around? I don't think it was ever a thing.
Nah.
I think they spoke, but I don't see one. UConn's not going to join anything as a basketball only.
Yeah.
They've said that. I don't see the Big 12 subsidizing UConn football, which would be a losing proposition. That's a net loss.
Yeah.
So I just don't think UConn's a good fit for the Big 12. I know that everybody says I'm an idiot when I say that, but I think that's why you didn't see him in this round of expansion.
Yeah.
Tom Osborne for $5. San Diego State giving me secondhand embarrassment. They need to crawl under a rock for the next 10 to 15 years and hope people forget this ever happened. I just would stop. If I were San Diego State, listen, I would forget Twitter exists. I would forget social exists for my executives.
Yeah.
J.D. Wicker should not be on Twitter or X or whatever the hell we're calling it. He should not be on Twitter. He should not be Xing.
Yes.
Like this is a, and again, I don't even care if did Dennis Dodd make it up? I don't know, and I don't think so. J.D. Wicker has no business tweeting this.
Yeah, and I just don't know why J.D. Wicker is paying mind to it. I mean, if you're gonna, if that's what I said, dude, it's okay. Let's take my opinion of Dennis Dodd's work out of it, just at a minimum. Like, just level with me at a minimum here. should an athletic director really be going out on Twitter and giving his opinions on things? Don't you just do that by, again, local podcast or newspaper or something at San Diego State, an outlet of some variety? Give your university the run, not your X account, dude.
Ooh. Greg Sankey on the Feinbaum show was asked about his relationship with former Big Ten commissioner Kevin Warren.
Why we have Feinbaum.
Feinbaum said, what was your relationship with former Big Ten commissioner Kevin Warren? Quote, we saw the world differently. Sankey said, end quote. I guess, to put it mildly, why is Greg Sankey the guy who doesn't want change in college athletics?
Because why would he want anything to change? He's in the SEC. They're dominating.
I mean, listen, I understand that. I get it. But at some point, you have to know, and this is part of the thing I've never really understood, and maybe you can apply this to your life. Good old Uncle Monty's got some
Uncle
advice for
Monty.
you.
Hey, Monty.
Change is happening. You may not see it. You may not recognize it right in front of you. But if you're a college administrator, a conference commissioner, whoever, certainly you understand change is happening every single day.
That's the untrained eye.
Right? Like, I mean, if you can't see it, that's a you problem. But Greg Sankey has to understand. You're the commissioner of the SEC. You're really telling me that you don't understand that change is a part of the gig?
We're in a control position.
Right? Like, that doesn't feel, I don't know, normal is the word I want to say, but
He's just playing the game, dude. He's just playing the game.
I guess,
Greg
but-
Sankey knows how to build a productive football conference. And I think, if I'm the SEC, I'm not going to sit here and make a bunch of gray area comments. I agree with his statements and how definitive he's been. I think that, the SEC is the conference in college football. Sorry, Ohio State fan. Sorry, khaki Jim Harbaugh Michigan fan. The Big Ten is not the conference in college football. The SEC is, right? The SEC's got the championships. The SEC has all the premier brands pretty much. So for my money, if I'm Greg Sankey, I'm sitting here and being like, yeah, I'm going to go on Feinbaum show because Feinbaum is the SEC show. We all know that. So that's why he's not going on some podcast out west or out east. He's going on Feinbaum. And he's going to flex and he's going to say, hey, yeah, we don't see anybody that we're interested in an expansion. Mainly because they don't need to expand. Mainly because they're in the college football playoff championship game every single year. Mainly because they got a great relationship with ESPN. Right? Mainly because they're in an incredibly strong position. I wouldn't want to change anything either. Now, that doesn't skip over the fact that change is happening. Realignment's happening. And I think Greg understands that. But ultimately, Greg is uniquely positioned here to wait for the ACC grant of rights to expire.
Yep.
Add ACC schools and compete with the Big Ten in a duo super conference setup 10 years from now. We all know that's coming. And I love Brett Yormark. I love my boy Mike Gundy. I love the Big 12. But you are not going to survive if these two conferences are bringing in $100 million per school. That's not going to work for you.
Well, Gus, I mean, I don't even know how to say this. And you guys that listen to this show, you know that I'm going to light the world on fire right now.
Well, that's the issue, isn't it?
So you know that Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, went on Paul Feinbaum.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Dennis Dodd, who lit the world on fire today already, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. We have another pro rata sighting.
Oh, boy.
Dennis Dodd. Greg Sankey said without saying it just now, any SEC expansion candidate has to bring pro rata. That was clearly a message to FSU, which is what I've been saying for a week now, doesn't bring an equal proportionate revenue share from a network. Because they don't bring viewership. They don't bring championship.
Okay, fuck you.
You put, and again, I get it. I'm the asshole. Tell me again that FSU could win the SEC in a decade. If you put them in the SEC today, would FSU win an SEC football championship inside of 10 years?
Hell no.
No, I don't think they would.
Roll Tide!
Unless they got bucked up, I don't think they would. It is that time of the show. Bucked Up Energy, the official energy provider of the Monty program.
Here's to program 1000 and stuff.
We've got the Foo Fighters concert tonight. So I'm going to hit my buckshot so that I am ready to rock and roll and slam dance. And I don't slam dance, but I'm going to hit this now.
I think I've hit it every time.
I think I have hit it. Wow. That's a Mike Gundy drop now. I think I have hit it every time. Bucked Up Energy, you guys. Buckedup.com. Use the promo code Monty to get 20% off your purchase at $20 or more at buckedup.com. And the buckshots are phenomenal, you guys. 6 free buckshots. Description in the link below. Hook it up. Tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. And what buckshots do? So they give you 200 milligrams of caffeine, but they give you clean, long-lasting energy to get you through the second half of your day, to power you through the Foo Fighters concert. Maybe you're going to play golf. Maybe you're going to play softball. Maybe you just got to go home and be mentally awake and aware for your family after a long day at work. Hook it up. Hit a buckshot. That's what I love about Bucked Up Energy, you guys. They do what they say they're going to do. They have the best proteins. They use whey protein isolate in their new Buck Bar. I hate protein bars. We've talked about this on the show ad nauseum. I hate them. This is the only protein bar that I eat, and I eat it because it's decadent, man. Like that's the
Yes.
I can eat it during golf to power me through. I can eat it after a workout. I can eat it as a meal replacement even because I know it's got whey protein isolate as its number one ingredient. That's how you know it's a quality product. Oh, by the way, it says Bucked Up on it. It's a quality product. You hear Bucked Up, you think the best ingredients from the best people. Buckedup.com. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Let's read more of your comments. You guys are amazing. It's Fair, who's been a member for 5 months. Let's
Damn,
go.
Man. You got all kinds of anniversaries.
Someone define a weak P5 versus a strong G5 school. Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Who's your best G5 school? If you had to name one right now, maybe San Diego State is that
Yeah,
one.
I would agree.
But who is the one? I would probably San Diego State's a fine example.
Yeah.
Would you rather have San Diego State or Vanderbilt? Boise State or Vanderbilt? I probably would rather have Boise State or San Diego State. But what's the difference? Boise State and San Diego State are in a G5 conference, and Vandy's in the SEC.
Yeah.
They're in the ACC. They're in the Big Ten. They're in the Big 12. Like, because you have a Vanderbilt in every conference, right?
Yep.
And the difference is they're making the money that San Diego State is not. And I think a lot of it is good old boy network. Because is Indiana really a Power 5 program? Basketball, sure they are. Right? But I think I can make the argument Iowa isn't.
Because it's garbage.
I think I can make the argument. I mean, is Maryland, is Rutgers? Come on now. Right? I mean, every conference has them. Every conference. Yeah. There you go. Rutgers. Absolutely.
Cal.
You know, like Rutgers paying off Big Ten, paying off big for the Big Ten. Yeah, apparently. Seth says UTSA, absolutely. Sleeping juggernaut, baby. No doubt about it. Boston College, Boston. Well, the first word is all you need to know. Boston.
Best.
Tom Dean says Mississippi State. What? Come on now. What do you mean? Power 5 collusion, as I like to call it. You're not wrong, Salamini.
Yeah, spot on.
Salamini. You're not wrong. Dabo Sweeney's 805 winning percentage. UConn is never getting in the ACC. Probably not.
It's a passionate take there, bro.
Because nobody likes UConn. They're a good basketball program, but who?
You know.
Really? Come on.
Yeah.
Cypher for $5. Dennis Dodd greater than Pete Thamel. Yeah, Pete came out looking like a donkey last week. Pete had a tough week last week. He did. Am I wrong?
A donkey.
He did. He came out looking like a donkey.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Damn.
Matt Riley for $2. FSU just learned that the SEC doesn't want them. But is FSU really valuable?
Nick Saban is a better man than you are.
You're not Alabama.
Well, nobody's Alabama.
You're not Ole Miss. Georgia's Alabama. You're not Ole Miss. You're not LSU. Right? Hell, you're not Florida. Come on.
But listen, Florida State has they have a lot of, what do they got? 3 national championships. I mean, you're looking at a situation where, this program has history and tradition. The problem is you haven't been relevant in the ACC for.
I think this balance of what have you done versus what have you done for me lately is super in our face right now with realignment. I mean, again, big arguments over Stanford last week. Right?
Big argument.
Like, these programs that haven't done a damn thing for anybody in like a decade, and then we want to roll out here and be like, oh, but, top athletic department in the country, and they're the best, and they should be in a P. Like, no, dude, the margins are too slim now. You have to be productive. I don't care what you did in the 80s. I don't care what you did in the 2000s. It doesn't matter, dude. Right? Like, nobody cares. Like let's say Florida was trying to get into the Big Ten as an example. Not that they are, but let's just say they were. Dude, Tim Tebow's success at Florida, it has nothing to do with whether Florida is a good fit for the Big Ten right now,
but
dude.
Listen, Florida State, the problem is you hired a guy like Willie Taggart.
Yeah, another problem.
He's not a Division I guy. You replace him with Mike Norvell. Who's excited about Florida State football? I just look at Jimbo's tenure. You have not been anything since Jimbo left.
Yeah.
You had all that stability from 76 to 2017 with Bobby Bowden and Jimbo Fisher, and you have been a disaster since.
Yep.
Does Mike Norvell? Well, but does Mike Norvell, is that a guy that you're like, God damn, boy, that's Mike Norvell? No.
I'm a man.
It's not. Right? Like, you are 3-6, 5-7, and 10-3 last year, but 5-3 in the conference. And you went to the Cheez-It Bowl. Are you really excited about? I mean, listen, if they win the Atlantic this year, okay. I mean, we can have a conversation about it, I guess. But is Florida State somebody that the SEC's like, God damn, boy,
No.
we need Florida State?
No.
No. I don't know why I use that accent everywhere.
Hug them.
But they're not. They're not. Brass Bulls. I know who I am and where I am. I'm a lazy dude napping to the dulcet tones of Monty and Jake ripping a new one to fake news advocates. You ain't wrong, man. Domer Wop.
Hey, Domer. Nice of you to show up today, dude.
Feinbaum was put in a high school locker inferiority complex.
Why we have fine, Mom.
I can take a day or two of Feinbaum.
Yeah, it's just
spread
it's
out by
very
like
dry.
6 months.
Dude, it's very dry.
It
It's
is.
very.
Yeah. Tom Osborne for $2. I'm bringing my own pro rata, and it's Louis.
Yeah, dude.
Kyle A. What's up, Kyle A.? Appreciate you. Are you planning on going to media days next year? Yes, of course. Every year.
Pardon me.
What is
How
that
long?
drop mean? Why you play that drop right there, man?
Why are you calling me out on drops now, dude?
Okay, go ahead.
You gonna let me explain the drop or no?
No.
Am I gonna get 2 weeks notice like the Pac-12 gave us this year?
No. Well, no. The Pac-12 is dead. The Big
I'm
12
aware. I'm aware.
The Big
That's my
12
point.
actually is professional, and they give you like 6 weeks notice.
Douchebags.
We know where it's going to be, and we pretty much know the week it's going to be, so we can sell it and plan it and execute it. Hello. Matt Ritson, did Stanford turn down the Big 12, and why? They did not turn down the Big 12. They were not invited to the Big 12 as far as I know. So I could be wrong about that, but I mean, we've had this conversation 10 times this week. Stanford's not a fit in the Big 12, and I don't think Stanford would join the Big 12. It just is simply not who they are. And that's not being snobby. I think that's just a fact. Does Stanford feel like a seamless fit in the Big 12?
No.
It doesn't. Do they feel like a fit in the ACC? Well, more based on the institutions that are there. When you have institutions like Duke, yeah, I think you are a fit there. The problem with Stanford is you just can't get athletes into the frickin' school. You can't get them in there to play football. You can't get them in there to play basketball. You know how difficult it is to get admitted to Stanford. Like Colorado was the same way until Colorado lowered their standards this year. You think Stanford's doing that? Hell no. They're not doing that. GOP gives us $5. The only thing better than a calzone from Papa Murphy's would be winning those Texas Baylor tickets. Hook them.
Hey, it's pretty easy, dude. Like
It
all
is.
you got to do is sign up for the 30-day $10 trial, man.
All you got to do, so we're giving away a pair of tickets, you guys, to see Texas and Baylor. This was one of the most asked for games on the show. So you guys may know, if you're new to the show, hit the like button. We are over 10,000 views on the show today, and we only have 506 likes. Come on, you guys, we got to pump those numbers up.
Yeah, come on.
Those are Jakey Two-Holes numbers.
Right,
Let's go.
right.
We try to get 1,000 likes in 3 hours, so please hit the like button if you've not. But we are giving away tickets every week for the month of August. And this week it's Texas and Baylor. And we really want to hook it up. It's a game you guys asked for. Friday at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern on this here showroom. We are going to announce the winner. And all you have to do to qualify is go to trydaytrading.com/Monty. Sign up for their 30-day $10 trial. All you have to do is give a $10 charitable donation to trydaytrading.com. It's a tax write-off for you. Then they give you a 30-day membership for free. You get all their coaching, all their software, all their analytics, teach you the process. Nobody that we have seen enter that trial has stopped at 30 days. But if you don't want to continue with it, great, don't continue with it. You have no obligation. But you realize at Tri-Day Trading, their full-time traders make $1,000 a day. And what happens is you go through their program, you graduate, you open your own business, they fund a trading account for you. You make your first trades with Tri-Day Trading's money, and you keep 80% of the profits for $10. And by the way, if I said you want Baylor, Texas tickets for $10, what would you say? Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Hook it up. TryDayTrading.com. Take a screen grab that you're in the program. Tag us on Twitter or Instagram, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. You're entered to win.
Program.
It's that simple, Gop. Let's go, my man.
Do it.
Hook it up. The tickets next week are going to be pretty sweet as well.
They're going to be lit and stuff.
You know. It is. Next week's game's pretty good. I think you guys be excited. By the way, in the comments section, what game do you want us to give tickets to? What is there? Who's your team? And we haven't done this in a while. Maybe we lighten the mood a little bit. In the comments section, who's your team? Who's your team? I'm a Notre Dame fan, and sometimes I'm proud. Not much. Well, occasionally.
Right.
Renee Roca says Oregon, Texas Tech, much better game. Several people have asked us for that. Yes. Construction Work says Houston, Texas. Okay. UTSA versus Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Okay. GTI Brandon says BYU versus Utah. Let's get it on the schedule first. Cypher, dominating for Natties, yes, but falling further behind in everything else. Markets, money, and academics and research. Okay. You mean the SEC, I'm assuming. Salamini. Can we use the San Diego State method of trading? Make a guess on what stock is going to win, not pay attention to anything else and go all in, then sell when you realize that company is going belly out.
Bro. Dude, you're not wrong.
That's awesome, Salamini. Force Ghost Fabio says San Diego State. Kevin Chittenden says OU. Man, I'm pissed about Bedlam. Did you guys hear what Gundy said today? It really wasn't today. It was the other day, actually.
Yeah.
Did you guys see what Gundy said about the transfer portal. What do you guys? Where do you guys come down on Mike Gundy? Are you a Mike Gundy fan? Like, I'm a huge Gundy guy. But listen to what he says here about the portal.
Whether we like it or not, we live in the age of the portal. And in this time, we need to make sure as coaches, more so than ever, that we give everybody quality time to work it out position-wise. Almost caught him. Position-wise based on their work on the field. When we name a depth chart, I want to be able to look them all in the eye and say everybody had a fair shot. And I think that's all we can do as coaches for the players, and then I think the players will respect that more so than we have in years past.
Do you think that's how you get kids to stay at Oklahoma State?
I do.
You do?
Yeah. Well, because I think, dude, the portal, his point there is the portal is a facilitator to quit. That's what the portal is. The portal is, hey, Mike Gundy didn't give me a chance to make, the starting 11 at safety. I'm going to hit the portal and go somewhere else a little easier, right? Like that we've seen that 100 different ways in college football. So Gundy's basically saying, hey, dude, we got to make sure the kid feels valued now and feels like, yeah, I did give 110% on the field, and unfortunately, Buddy over here beat me. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to stay in the program. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to work my way through it because I have a good relationship with my head coach. That's what Gundy's saying. But the reality is there's nothing that's going to stop a kid from hitting the portal if they want to.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think that he makes a good point. I think that Mike Gundy makes a good point when he says, hey, if we show the kids respect and we show them, hey, we're going to give you every opportunity to get as high up the depth chart as you can. And if that means you're in the starting 11, great. If that means you're number 2 or number 3 or whatever winds up being, great. But you're not going to say that we shortchanged you or that we didn't give you the proper chance.
Let's hear a little bit more from Coach Gundy on Fox and ESPN, because one of the questions that I think we have to ask today, did you guys hear that ESPN is opening branded casinos, essentially, sports books? And really, it's just them giving their name to branded sports books. While you listen to Gundy talk about Fox and ESPN, why do people hate ESPN?
I mean, I'm almost like Nostradamus. I've been telling you guys for 18 months what's going to happen. And I think I've hit it every time. I'm glad you brought it up. 2 things. I said Oklahoma State would be in great shape no matter what, which has happened. And I said eventually the Big 12 Conference will rise and be just fine, which has happened. And I said that conference realignment is not finished yet, and it's not finished now. It's still going to go on. So we're thrilled to have Colorado. I actually need to reach out to Coach Sanders and welcome him to the league. I haven't done that yet. I think that the addition of Coach there has generated a lot of excitement, and I think that has an advantage for this league from a marketability across the country. And that's what this comes down to, right? We're trying to market so you can get sales, so you can get ESPN and Fox to pay you money to play on TV.
I feel like he's vilifying. I don't know. Am I reading too much into that? I feel like he's vilifying Fox and ESPN there.
Well, I think the reality is everyone is. And the reality is they're not wrong, right? Like Fox and ESPN are doing what they need to do. If you want to vilify them, great. I don't think we need to vilify them. I just think we need to accept that that's the reality of college football until you come up with a better solution to the grant of rights setup. Because until you have a better solution to grant of rights, there's not going to be another position for ESPN and Fox to be in. They have to do it the way they're doing it.
I don't know, man. I think there's nothing wrong with ESPN doing ESPN. They're in the money-making business. Oklahoma State's in the money-making business. And I love Gundy, and we've talked about this at length, especially with the stuff he's said about Bedlam. Bedlam's good for college football. He's the only guy. Mike Gundy is the only guy that doesn't want Bedlam. I think he vilifies Fox and ESPN for college football expansion, and I just don't think that's where it is. If you're Fox and ESPN and you can build the best football television programming, why would you say no to it?
Mm-hmm.
Why? And if you're Oklahoma State and you got an invite to the SEC, are you telling me you're saying no, Mullet Man? You're not saying no. There's no chance you're saying no. You're saying yes. It gives you more money, which gives you more opportunity. You can play in bigger, better games. You can recruit better. You can coach better. You can play better. Everybody wants that. That's not ESPN's fault. You should be thanking ESPN, not vilifying them. And I feel like it's so easy now to say, well, it's ESPN and Fox's fault. They're the villains here. We're doing this for TV money. You're goddamn right we're doing it for TV money. That's exactly what this is, a banking business. You can't run a major college football conference without a major conference TV contract. Ask the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yep.
Why? And again, why does Florida State want into the SEC? The same reason Mike Gundy had taken an invite to the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
The same reason. More money, better games, better players.
So get your facts straight.
It shouldn't be sinful. It shouldn't be, oh, there's something dirty about that. Oh, ESPN's on the phone. I better go take a bath after I'm done with that call. Like, I don't understand this mentality of blame the networks. I don't know. Am I making too much of that?
I don't think you're making too much of it. I just think that it's a perspective conversation. I don't think that ESPN and Fox are at fault. I just think they're doing what their business dictates, right? They're doing what they need to do to be as profitable as possible. And through that process, college football took a hit and lost a conference. That's the reality of the situation. The expectation shouldn't be that ESPN's going to do bad business to keep the Pac-12 afloat.
Well,
right? And I think that the ESPN Fox Death Star take is a spinoff of who's really at fault, which is the portal and NIL.
Yes.
The portal combined with NIL has created a situation where kids are just going to go to the highest bidder. And I hate saying that, but that's what it is right now, which is why you're seeing all this legislation and you're seeing the efforts being put in by senators to create bills that ultimately are going to control college football much more stiffly, much more rigidly with NIL. So to me, NIL and the transfer portal are the real troublemakers here because, again, kids can go where they want to go, which is why I agree with what Mike was saying. Ultimately, if a kid has a great relationship with you, you can at least feel good about them leaving because at that point, you've done everything you can do.
That's right.
You're saying, hey, dude, I love you. I want you to do the best that you can possibly do. And if second on the depth chart is the best you can do, then if you want to leave, that's on you. But I've done everything I can do. And his point there is that, hey, as coaches, we really got to work our ass off to make sure that everyone gets a fair shot. And what's not in the clip is he was talking about how his philosophy with coaching in at the beginning of fall camp is the first 10 to 12 practices, we're going to minimize concepts and we're going to rotate people through groups so everyone feels like they have a shot. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant because what is he essentially measuring you on at that point? If we're not going to have concepts and we're just playing street ball out there, you're evaluating talent. Show me that you can run by the DB. Show me.
You want to see something wild? Look at this Ross Dellinger tweet. Ross Dellinger, for a year, SMU held various degrees of dialogue with several leagues in pursuit to join a power conference, including the Big 12, Pac-12, and ACC. Mustangs are open to foregoing several years of distribution to enter the ACC.
Oh, what are you talking about, man?
Are you serious right now? You are telling me, man, every time I think I've seen all the stupid shit in expansion that we're ever going to see, and I'm serious, like every time I think there's no way somebody can be this dumb. Somebody's like, wait a minute, hold my beer. Let's forego several years of distribution to get into the ACC.
Well, okay, so on its face, it sounds really stupid. And I think it is stupid. But if you're SMU, you know you're never getting into a Power 5.
You're going to give up $80 to $100 million?
Yeah, because what have we heard about SMU? I'm not disagreeing with you, but what have we heard? It kind of, like, from SMU's dumbass perspective, it kind of makes sense. Hey, we're oil money and we got all this money, right? Because that's the thing with SMU. Oh, we got all this money. we got the oil money and we got all this funding behind us. We're good. Okay, so if that's the case, then you have to be willing to be of value to a Power 5 by saying we will sacrifice X, Y, and Z to be a member of your conference. So we want to enter your conference and make it so that you don't have to go to a TV partner and say, hey, look, man, we're trying to add SMU. What are you willing to pay? No, hey, the conversation is we're going to add SMU, and you don't need to pay them or you don't need to give us a distribution payment for 2030, until 2030. That's what SMU's value is.
I don't get it. I'm trying. You guys, I'm trying. I don't understand. I don't get it at all.
What is SMU saying? I really think this is simple. SMU is saying, hey, we get it. We're not a P5 team. We understand that. But we understand to survive athletically, we got to get into a P5. And because you're not on TV doesn't mean that you can't make money on your football product.
Bro, this has to be one of the most desperate things that I have ever seen. I don't even know how you got SMU is willing to forego several years. Hi, motherfucker, like, how San Diego State of you? Like, are you serious with why? So you agree it's thirsty?
Yes, I agree. I agree completely that it's silly by basically any measure.
My God.
But I really want you guys to consider this. If you're SMU, a school on that level, this logic doesn't apply to a P5. It doesn't apply to anyone who's already in the system. But if you're a low-level school that legitimately has no chance of being accepted into a P5 in standard procedure, right? Hey, we're evaluating you. Okay, we're going to add you to our grant of rights. If you don't have any chance at that, okay, you have to get creative if you want to try and get into one of these conferences. So notice what SMU hasn't done. SMU hasn't written a letter. SMU hasn't tried to lead a coup. SMU hasn't done anything outlandish like somebody in Southern California.
Other than the whole death penalty with many years ago. My point is, does this make you more or less attractive? I would guess this makes you less attractive. I understand it from that person. I think you're right. If SMU doesn't get in now, if not now, then when? And maybe never. Because you're getting left behind at some point. Because there's going to come a point where realignment is only going to involve major P5 teams.
Yeah.
It's switching around. I think we're already at a point where regionality is going to have to come into scheduling, and conferences that are going to have 20 teams are going to have the Western Conference with 2 divisions. Like, you're going to have to figure out, hey, man, like, I don't know how you don't. Pat McAfee was talking today about how the NFL schedule and conference standings setup is what college football is going to have to go to.
Yeah.
I think it makes perfect sense because I don't know how you realign. Like, what is attractive about SMU? And I want to have a real conversation about this, my Texas fans. I want to have a real conversation, my Florida fans. Like, you guys, like, does SMU excite any of us? I'm a Notre Dame fan. I don't want to play fucking SMU.
I don't think it's about
care.
that. I don't think it's about that. I don't think it's about, again, SMU's trying to do an unconventional deal. SMU's not playing on, hey, do we have national notoriety? They're not. That's not the conversation SMU's having. The conversation SMU is trying to have with the ACC is, hey, man, we've got multiple billionaires that have given us an endowment in athletics that allows us to really not care about a distribution deal. We quite literally have so much money sitting here, much like Stanford, right? Same thing with Stanford. Hey, we have so much money sitting here that we don't really have to care about carriage and distribution. And so what we understand, and I'm guessing this is why they're playing the angle this way, they understand that college football is slowly but surely heading to 2-team super conference setup. That's where we're going, unfortunately. And so teams like schools like SMU have to do what they have to do to get in now. Because think about it this way. When the ACC grant of rights is up in 2036, if SMU were to get in this year or maybe next year, let's say, 10 years from now, nobody's going to give a damn that you sacrificed 5 years of carriage if you got 5 more years and a bunch of reliability out of the next grant of rights. Yeah. Nobody's going to care.
Yeah. Construction Work says SMU is desperate, bro.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree with that.
You are not wrong, man. Like, I agree 100%. SMU is desperate.
But desperate times call for desperate measures. SMU, I have no problem saying it. Hey, San Diego State fan, you are better than SMU. The problem is you're not willing to do, apparently, what SMU is willing to do.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I would agree with that. This is such a wild story. So, again, just so everybody's on the same page with us, you're looking at a situation where Ross Dellinger says that SMU are open to foregoing several years of distribution to enter a P5 conference. I can't even believe that I'm saying that out loud.
Yeah.
I cannot even believe that I'm saying that out loud. To get into the ACC, the SMU Mustangs are willing to forego several years of distribution.
Facts.
Hey, man, that booster money's wild.
Yeah.
That booster money is absolutely out there. Wildin', let's hope it'll buy you some Papa Murphy's calzones.
At Papa Murphy's, we do more than just pizza. We do calzones.
Papa Murphy's does calzones?
Oh, I think you mean I do the calzones.
And how do you do it, Dad?
How do I do it? How do I do it?
Oh, well, we do it with fresh ingredients and hand-shredded cheese tucked in a scratch-made dough.
That's how, honey.
At Papa Murphy's, we make great pizza.
You don't forget the calzones.
Order now at papamurphys.com.
Papa Murphy's Pizza. The official pizza of the Monty Show.
Yeah.
Do you guys like when I sing? Like, I think it's pretty good when I sing for you guys. Like, it's pretty damn impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is pretty damn like my singing credential. Anyway,
yeah.
Papa Murphy's Pizza, the official pizza of the Monty Show. Make sure that you guys use the promo code Monty25 to get 25% off your purchase of $25 or more at Papa Murphy's Pizza. The Monty Show is presented by our good friends at The Advocates. TheAdvocates.com. The best injury attorneys in the business. You guys know I tell you this every single day. The Advocates, they are fantastic. And really the thing you know about the Advocates is they're going to help you no matter what, because you don't ever reach into your pocket to pay the Advocates. You only pay the Advocates when they get you that positive outcome. When you win your case, that's when you pay the Advocates. So you've been in a wreck. Let's say you got hurt at work today, because a lot of people ask me about workman's comp with the Advocates. If you got hurt at work today and I know your boss came to you and said, oh, you're going to be okay, we're going to take care of you, we've got this insurance, you're going to get paid. Okay, that's all well and good, and I'm not saying they're not. But what happens when they don't? Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you meet with the Advocates for free? It costs you nothing, no obligation. You have nothing to lose to meet with some of the best injury attorneys in the business at theadvocates.com. Why wouldn't you do that? Theadvocates.com. Chat with an attorney live online for free. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on The Monty Show. A wild day. A wild day in college football expansion. I don't even know how you put a number on what's going on with this story at SMU. And I don't know, again, maybe listen, I'm open to the idea that I'm crazy. I don't know. You guys tell me. But I look at this situation with SMU and I just don't understand how on earth we got to a place where you're looking at SMU and they are years of fees and structure and revenue just to get entry into the ACC.
It's wild.
It's absolutely wild.
And I think once again we're in a place where we're in uncharted water here, because schools are being forced to do things that, we would have never seen 10 years ago. You never would have seen a school be like, yeah, we're willing to do this and do that, and we got this money, and unfortunately, I do think, again, endowment money is starting to become a more regular piece of the conversation because, again, grant of rights agreements are archaic. They are cavemanish. They are not. Nobody else in modern business does grant of rights. That's not how it works. But again, it comes back to this issue of the NCAA is a sporting body that is old and not innovative. And there is no other way to say it than the top dogs carry the entire company.
That's right.
It's like a sales company. The top 1% do all the business. And the other 99% are just out here, just being average. And I think that's unfortunately where the NCAA is at, and we're pushing to a point where the top dogs have the leverage, and they're saying, hey, we're unwilling to share this revenue now.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Dabo's 805 winning percentage. Boise State has all that potato mafia money, though. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Aaron Wilson says, whittle, wild, wold, we load. It's crazy. It is absolutely wild. Mike Smith says Dallas market would rather watch out of state teams like OU and Oklahoma State over SMU, which is totally true.
And I think SMU is embracing that. SMU is saying, hey, our value is not relevance in the state, right? Our value is not Dallas. Our value is not, typical, institution value. Our value is, hey, we literally have billions upon billions of dollars sitting behind our institution, so we can come in as a member. We're not going to be a problem. We're not going to ask you to put us on distribution right away, and we'll help you schedule. Yeah, sure. We auto wins for teams like Clemson and all these different top end programs. Yeah, you are. We are. We're going to lose all those games. But the point is that we're moving to 10 conference game schedules. That's coming. And I think SMU is saying, hey, we'll bring flexibility, and we'll be one of those 10 games for you, and you can pretty much guarantee that we will lose those games because we're not good enough.
Glenn says, it's the boosters. I have a firsthand relevant story I could tell you, but have character limits posting here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Jamie Thornton says, with the ACC, add Tulane or go with SMU. Tulane, SMU, Cal, and Stanford to the ACC. That kind of makes some sense, not all on the West Coast, but expanded footprint to New Orleans, Dallas, and California. I don't understand why Tulane gets so little love.
Yeah.
I really don't understand it. Ted Adams says, if SMU were worth their salt athletically, the Big 12 would have added them instead of Houston. Didn't happen, so case is closed. Well, Houston, though, gives you a massive metropolitan market that was untapped in really any P5 conference. So Houston was always getting into the Big 12, but you would have had a case to add SMU to any other P5 conference at some point, but nobody has. Nobody has. And Tulane, I think, is the great victim. Like Jamie said, I think Tulane is one of the great candidates that nobody talks about.
Yes.
Nobody talks about it at all. And I don't truly understand why. Northeast Ohio, Boise State fan. It doesn't matter what SMU brings. They're in a top 10 TV market, period. Here's the problem. They're not. They're not. And this is the conversation we have repeatedly about SMU.
Day.
Does SMU deliver the Dallas TV market? And my answer is no. And Dallas is our number 2 viewership market on this show. I think we might have 5 SMU fans total that watch this show. And Dallas is our number 2 market.
Yeah.
And SMU fans, stand up. Stand up. Let's hear from you.
Hug them.
Right? But no, because we don't have a lot of SMU fans because there aren't a lot of SMU fans.
Yeah.
Right? That's my point. Jeff Seal, SMU, we got a presidential library and 70 milli. What have you got? Exactly.
Seriously.
Exactly. Construction Work says dirty laundry exposed today all over the country.
Seriously.
All over the country. I still think this situation in San Diego with J.D. Wicker, who, by the way, still has not replied to an email for comment, Took them 35 seconds to say, no, I'm not coming on your show today. Well, here, let me reply and ask you for a comment. No, not going to reply to that.
Yeah.
Like the story at San Diego is wild. That they, according to Dennis Dodd at CBS, tried to lead a revolt where the biggest schools in the Mountain West, the 4 remaining schools in the Pac-12, and a couple of schools from the American would have formed the newest P5 conference. Now, Dennis Dodd's story essentially says San Diego State President Adela de la Torre was leading a push to assemble what would have amounted to a breakaway of at least schools from the Mountain West and American Conference, along with some combination of. Well, apparently J.D. Wicker didn't like that story because J.D. Wicker, the athletic director at San Diego State, tweeted fake news, disappointed in the number of absolute fake stories, articles that get written these days, hashtag integrity in journalism. So this was a lie then, JD. Because that's what you're saying, that this is altogether a lie. Or maybe it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Because guess what? J.D. Wicker doesn't want to talk about it.
Nope.
And so I look at this SMU thing. I look at this Greg Sankey, all these Greg Sankey comments. I look at this SMU story. It's wild to me that you look at Pat Forty talking about, it was one of the worst weeks for college football last week, according to Greg Sankey. I agree. You look at Dennis Dodd. Greg Sankey just reiterated his frustration that no one on the NCAA council speaks up on issues at a recent meeting because only 7 of the council's 39 members are from a P5, which is wild. Greg Sankey on Feinbaum were very clear that there's not something out there that we should be reaching for in terms of conference expansion, to which Dennis Dodd said, yeah, FSU, we're talking to you. That the SEC is not, in fact, interested in Florida State, which, to my surprise, none at all.
Which puts Florida State in that same position as San Diego State, where you've done all this damage and now you have nowhere to go. Nice job, dude. Really nice job.
And it truly is a matter of the haves and the have-nots.
And I don't know why some member institutions just have this assumption that the place they want to go wants them. I mean, I don't know why, and like with San Diego State, I have to assume George and them talked and George said some things. I mean, I can't believe he didn't. But if you're San Diego State or Florida State, you're just assuming that these Power Fives want you, and that's not necessarily true. They don't have to do anything. That's the thing. They have the hammer, and you don't. So you have to show through actions that you're a valuable ad.
Yes.
Which is why I say, yes, the first time we read that Ross Dellinger tweet about SMU, it's got some shock value. There's some sticker shock there, right? Like,
yes.
Hey, SMU's willing to not be on TV or whatever for a number of years to get into a Power 5 conference, the ACC. But then when you dive into it, the comments saying, hey, they're desperate. You're damn right they're desperate because they're not getting into another Power 5. You're certainly not getting into the SEC. You're not getting into the Big Ten. And I think you're a borderline fit for the Big 12. I mean, geographically, obviously the Big 12 most closely aligns with you, but ultimately the ACC is the one with the turmoil. They're the one where there's some opportunity. They're the one where it's like, okay, hey, we're SMU. We can go in here and have a conversation and not get, kicked out the back door. And that's why I think they're doing that.
Yep. Alex Crows says Eric decided he wanted to go to SMU and he did. End of story. Okay. Gop says SMU is a Texas treasure. You didn't get it because you aren't from Texas. Stop hating. Hook 'em. SMU is not a Texas treasure. We have spent hours. You're new to the show. Number one, hit subscribe. We really appreciate you being here. We appreciate everybody watching the show today.